welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. Today we're going to be talking about 10 teams to monitor in the final 20 days of the NBA trade deadline. This is, of course, an article directly from ESPN. After that, we're going to go through and talk about one player from every team to watch just before the deadline as well. So if you do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below on your favorite trade deal here, as well as your team that might be a little bit of sleeper under the radar movement team coming forward. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. First up, we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. What we're watching is how aggressively they pursue help for Giannis. Now, could be one of two ways, whether they actually do pursue and help out Giannis or whether Giannis actually gets moved. It's been a bit of a dynamic. It seems like every year right around trade deadline, the offseason, we always talk about, is this the point where Giannis says, I'm done? I think that there are players out there that could possibly help out the Bucks with getting them some help. Of course, they have players such as Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis on expiring deals that could possibly help them out and go and get players. But who is that player? Could it be a point guard that goes and helps them out, someone like Anthony Simons, or could it be in the LaMelo Ball sweepstakes if they can get something like that done? But the issue with that is they don't have anything extremely enticing to which a team would want to pursue that. Realistically, it would be teams such as like the Atlanta deal, where they were just looking to, the Atlanta for Trae Young deal, where they were just looking to gain expiring deals. But there's not really too many stars out there that can go help out Giannis win now and fulfill that, where the other team accepting it would be willing to take on an expiring deal. The only player you can kind of think of off the top of your head is Zach LaVine. And yes, I do feel like that deal is going to eventually happen if Giannis goes to the front office and says, look, this is it. We got this and that's it. So it'd be Zach LaVine, Kevin Porter Jr., and Giannis and Miles Turner. Is that enough to really push the needle for Giannis to really be like, look, this is my future. I want to be a Buck for the rest of my life. Especially with the debacle of the Bucks fans booing the Bucks. Giannis took that extremely personally. So that means with these final 20 days, he might be like, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to go over somewhere else. Now, what team would be looking at that? We, of course, talked about the Knicks on this channel. We've talked about the Warriors. We've talked about the idea of somebody that has a plethora of picks like the Hawks, somebody like that. But yeah, watch out for Milwaukee being aggressive. They, of course, did the Drew Holiday deal in the past. They did the Kyle Kuzma deal. They moved off of Chris Middleton, players like that. So I'm assuming they're going to make a deal close to trade deadline. Next up here, we're talking about the Golden State Warriors watching the end of Jonathan Kuminga, as Jonathan Kuminga has demanded a trade from Golden State. They're a team that, although they could have traded him way sooner for way more value, the issue with Golden State at this point is they're holding on to their players way too long. They're starting to turn into this organization that, they have these high value players and they end up just burning in the trade market because they don't trade them at their highest peak. So that's where you run into deals like Trae Young or like Bradley Beal when he was on the Wizards, where they're moved for way less value than they could have been a handful of years ago. Now, hindsight's 2020. But I do think in the summer when they had that deal lined up for Brandon Podziemski and Pods, etc., they could have made something happen there. They just chose not to. So overall, the Warriors, if they do a deal for Jonathan Kuminga with him demanding a trade, it's going to be for like pennies on the dollar. I think the Kings deal is probably one of the better deals they're going to get, which is Malik Monk and a first. If they get the first now at this point. Because if you're Sacramento, you're like, we really don't need Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, we're already in this rebuilding mode. But then you're like, if you're the Warriors, you need a center. So you need to go talk to a team such as like the Bulls with Nikola Vucevic, which I could see Jonathan Kuminga over there. The issue is Jonathan Kuminga super valuable to get the Nikola Vucevic deal done? And the Warriors are kind of stuck in this spot too, where they don't have a lot of depth. So although you might have to pair 1, 2, 3 players to go get a player like Nikola Vucevic or Michael Porter Jr., you can't really do that because you can't give up too much because then you have zero depth. Now, of the players available for Jonathan Kuminga, if they can somehow pull a deal to go get Michael Porter Jr., I actually would really like that for them because the Warriors have always been an organization that hasn't really had a necessity for a center. They don't really focus that spot. They've had the JaVale McGee's or DeMarcus Cousins at the end of his career, or the Trace Jackson Davis or Andrew Bogut, which Andrew Bogut was good, but not the Zaza Pachulias of the world. Like, they've never really focused that position. So you could continue that trend and be like, okay, we're just going to keep doing that. And then you go and you pursue, the Michael Porter Jr. of the world. So then you're running a lineup of Curry, Butler, Michael Porter Jr., Draymond, and whichever 5, Quentin Post, for example, we'll just say, or Al Horford, right? That way, but the issue is the money to match that. Then you have zero depth because you're going to have to give up Buddy Hield. You're going to have to give up probably Moses Moody as well because of how valuable Michael Porter Jr. has come. I think that genuinely a team would be willing to give up at least 1 first-round pick and a young player, if not 2 first-round picks. And if you're the Nets, that's exactly what you're looking for. So watch for the Golden State Warriors to make something happen with Jonathan Kuminga. Don't be surprised, though, if they're kind of getting fleeced in the deal because he demanded a trade and he's not really that valuable because he has a bunch of DNPs. The Raptors are next. And Toronto's interesting because they have movable players, right? The experiment of Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl seemingly could be better. That's what I'll say. Yes, they're towards the top of the East, but it could be potentially better, and they might want to capitalize and see and say, hey, the East is a little bit weaker this year with teams like Indiana and Boston not at 100%, although Boston is towards the top of the East, which I'll get to them. This could be their time to shine, though. Seems like the Knicks aren't as good as what they seemingly could be. Yes, they still have championship contention for sure. The Pistons, until they do it, you got to prove it kind of thing. And then, of course, the Celtics without Tatum, or Tatum might be rushed back to come play. So there's an opportunity there for someone like Toronto to make that final move. Toronto did it last year when they moved and got Brandon Ingram. This year could be something similar where they get in on the Ja Morant experiment or they get in on the Anthony Davis market, something like that. It would be interesting to see some player like that, a superstar, go over there. And right now, I think Ja Morant's value is at an all-time low. So in theory, you would just need to make the money match. So that's like quickly, maybe Grady Dick, and then that gets the deal done. Versus you go out and you go get a guy like LaMelo, or because that's where I would assume that the Raptors would focus, would be that point guard area to really, or go get a star. Maybe they go talk to Toronto, the Sacramento Kings, bring back DeRozan. Sabonis is a good option, I think, for them. Something like that. But watch out. I think that the Raptors will get involved. And again, this video is directly from ESPN, so keep that in mind as well. Minnesota's the next team up here. They're going to be looking at going and getting a point guard. This could be the potential of somebody small. See, what I think, 2 things here. One, there's 2 different ways to look at this. They could go big and give up Naz Reid, right? But then you lack depth there. But then, on the other hand, you could go smaller point guard, which is kind of what I think they need to do. So you go and get somebody like, even if you had somebody like a Dennis Schroeder, I think Dennis Schroeder is kind of a perfect point guard to fit in Minnesota because he's got playoff experience. He knows how to run an offense, right? That's the issue right now, is there's no one there in Minnesota to run the offense. And you don't need him to score because you have Anthony Edwards. You got Julius Randle to score the ball, right? So you need a point guard who's going to be good in deep playoff run. And what Dennis Schroeder proved, although this year it's been a little bit down, what he proved in the past for Detroit last season was on important basketball play, he shows up. So that's what I'll say about Dennis Schroeder, is I think that he could be a key target, and I think Sacramento would just want to get rid of him. It wouldn't take a lot. You'd have to just make the money match and then maybe a second on top of it, if that. Or if you can absorb the cap, then just a second in general. But the Kings would for sure want to just get off his money. Another player they could look at potentially would be another King, Russell Westbrook. I know that Russell Westbrook's numbers have been all over the map, but at the same time, you want a player that's a grit and grind guy that makes a little bit of money and that doesn't have a ton of value. Russell Westbrook could be your guy. And then this is also the way that they keep Naz Reid. That's my whole thought process behind this, is them keeping Naz Reid. Because yes, you do have to give up pieces to go out and get better pieces, but I also think there's a world where they don't necessarily need, like the Kings would be enticed by getting Rob Dillingham. Like Rob Dillingham is the perfect player to go to Sacramento because there's no pressure on him winning, so he can just go develop. Right now in Minnesota, he's not playing because he needs to develop, and yet they can't afford him to develop. They can't afford him to make the mistakes and have these high turnover games, yet that's exactly what he needs. Sacramento would be the prime spot for Minnesota to go target and be like, yo, we have this young asset that you guys could use. We want one of your veterans. I think that that's perfect. And the money would be pretty darn close to match with Russell Westbrook. The next team to look at, we can also say with Minnesota that one player that they could go and ball out to go get would be like a Darius Garland. But I think you'd have to give up too much to go get Darius Garland. So that's where I'm at with that. Anthony Simons could be another option. Again, I think the Celtics would want a big. That's where Naz Reid would come into play. But I don't think that the Timberwolves would give up Naz Reid to get back Anthony Simons. Dallas is, of course, an interesting team. They're a team that every team should be looking at, going and saying, yo, what is the value? Where do you value Daniel Gafford? Where do you value Anthony Davis? Where do you value PJ Washington? If you need depth, they're a team to go and talk to, because they're somebody that they're looking to go kind of start fresh, it seems like. I think you could even potentially talk about Kyrie. Kyrie could be somebody that really provides a lot of value for a next year's team, right? Somebody that their point guard is going to walk away in free agency, so they're going to step up and go grab him. But yeah, Dallas, of course, they're looking at the Anthony Davis deals. I assume that he'll be moved here soon, right? By the deadline, I think he'll be on a new roster. Whether it's Chicago, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Toronto gets in the mix, something like that, I think that he'll be moved for sure. And don't be surprised if Daniel Gafford's not a part of that deal, not that deal specifically, but part of a deal, and he gets moved as well, because I think he's got a lot of value for a championship contention team. Look at the Warriors possibly, look at the Celtics, like I said before, that need a center, those teams. I think even the Magic could kind of get in the mix to get a center, because Wendell Carter, he's a little bit small for a center. Next up is Memphis. Now, vibes are high right now. They just are in London. Ja Morant joking around and having a good time. I think really, though, I do think they're going to move off of him. I think they're trying to inflate his value a little bit and say, look, we'll trade you if you just put on a brave face for the next few games. People see your value, and then boom, you're out the door. He bought a mansion in Miami. So something like that, where Miami could be a prime spot for him. In return, they get a guy like Tyler Hero, which he's cool. I mean, Tyler Hero's good. We've seen him on a championship contending roster that genuinely made a fat run to get to the finals. And he was a big part of that. So let's not downplay Tyler Hero. Yes, he's not at his peak. He's not the same peak as Ja Morant, but still, you're looking to move off Ja Morant anyways. So the Grizzlies should be in the trade market, possibly for Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. Like I said before, a lot of teams need a center. The Warriors, the Celtics, the Magic, somebody like that. I think the Hornets could get kind of in the mix there. But yeah, even though he's like a 4, I think that he could slide to the 5 at some points. Brooklyn is a team that should be looking to trade everything that is not a young player. So Michael Porter Jr., Nicholas Claxton, and Cam Thomas should be towards the top of that list, at least taking the phone calls. Michael Porter Jr. should almost be guaranteed out the door if I'm Brooklyn. Yes, they don't own their next first-round pick in 2027, but you are a team that is gaining a plethora of picks by flipping Cam Johnson. You flip Cam Johnson, got a pick attached to Michael Porter Jr., and Michael Porter Jr. has been playing so well that you're about to get 1 or 2 picks on top of that. A team like Detroit could be getting in the mix for a package center around Jaden Ivey, and then Tobias Harris, and then a pick. But yeah, I think that Cam Thomas, second-round pick, gets the deal done, goes to a team like a team that just kind of needs a point guard. That point guard depth is what I should say, right? He's going to play the role of like an Isaiah Thomas, where just kind of a spark plug player, probably more off the bench than Isaiah Thomas did when he started. But I'm saying, like, I think he could be a spark off the bench when you just need that desperate scoring, the Jordan Clarkson role, the Lou Williams role, that whole 9 yards. Next team, Atlanta. Atlanta can make another move because they have that Kristaps Porzingis contract sitting. They have $42 million in expiring contracts between Kristaps and Luke Kennard. And they have a $13 million trade exception and 4 tradable first-round picks. So they've got pieces here to make another move, and it's clear as day they're ready to make the moves. They're ready to flip the script and say, hey, Trae Young experience didn't work. See you later, right? Guy after that, we'll see if we can go get a big name. We'll see if we can go get Nicholas Claxton. We'll see if we can go get an Anthony Davis, somebody like that. I think that could be, Atlanta could be a team to watch. And then we have the Los Angeles Lakers. They seem to always be involved in these. Ever since LeBron got to LA, it seems like they have been a team that every deadline they're going to make some sort of move, right? They clearly need some bench depth. Their defense is terrible. And the thing is, I just saw a theory that was like, they're kind of hoping that LeBron goes to ask for a trade to go somewhere else because he almost is anchoring the Lakers down. And although I don't 100% agree with that scenario, I do get the point that he makes a ton of money and they could use that money elsewhere when they do have players that can kind of fill that role. LeBron's a great player. He's still playing, not, of course, to the level of peak LeBron, but he is playing fantastic ball. And it's clearly not the same ball that we're once used to from the Miami days or the early Laker days, something like that, the Cavs days, right? Which is fine. He's gotten older. I mean, he's 42, right? Can't expect him to be prime LeBron. But the Lakers need to make some moves. And I'm not saying trade LeBron. I'm just saying that was a theory that I heard through a podcast I was listening to. And it was just kind of interesting to think about that they're kind of waiting for after LeBron so they can really make these moves and build the roster around Luka and not build the roster around Luka and LeBron. So center play, of course, is something that the Lakers need. Seemingly, DeAndre Ayton just is not the guy, right? They could go talk to the Mavericks about Daniel Gafford, like I talked about before. They could go talk to the Suns about somebody like a Nick Richards, because they have center depth. I think the Pelicans could get involved with like an Advi Missy. There are teams out there that have center play that can provide, not similar to the Timberwolves where they need a point guard that's not necessarily a superstar. The Lakers are in the same boat. They don't need a superstar. They just need competent players. And I bring up the Mavericks because Luka enjoyed playing with Daniel Gafford. He enjoyed playing with Derek Lively too, but Derek Lively I think is going to be too valuable for the Mavericks. I think he's part of that future there. Last but not least, on teams, we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. They're in an intriguing spot because they are a team that they have a couple different options. They're a team that could kind of hold, just get off of Anthony Simons and prepare for next year with Tatum's injury. Or, now that they're the 2 seed, it's kind of surprising they might look to, we can get Tatum back at the end of the year, deep playoff run, or maybe we could just see if we can win without Tatum. Like I brought up in the last episode about the idea of, is the Tatum-Brown experiment kind of over because they're the 2 seed? If they go make a run and they win the championship this year without Tatum, does that kind of set the seal of Tatum's future as a Celtic or Brown's future as a Celtic? That's the question. Is they need a center. You have Anthony Simons there. If they don't make a move, then clearly they're not going to put full throttle to the gas this year. Tatum will probably sit out. Maybe he'll play if they go on a deep playoff run, but I would assume that they would try and ease him back into the rotation. Really prepare for next year when it's going to be a gauntlet of an East. Everyone's going to be healthy. Teams are going to be way better than they once were. But yeah, I think Anthony Simons is an intriguing piece that does provide a lot of value. He's looking a lot like Damian Lillard when he's on the court. So will teams give it up? Will the Timberwolves make a call? Will the Grizzlies make a call? If they trade Ja for something and then they're like, well, we still need a point guard, let's go get Anthony Simons. That's what things could get interesting. Now let's talk about one player for every team. Some of these I'm going to go through quick because I just talked about them. The Atlanta Hawks, just talked about Kristaps Porzingis. That's the player to watch for them because, of course, he's an expiring deal. Some team might want him. They're kind of looking to rebuild a little bit, especially since they have that Pelicans pick this year, which is going to be a top pick. The Boston Celtics, Chris Boucher was a player that they should watch. Anthony Simons should be on that list too. And yeah, I mean, it's Chris Boucher. So next player up, Brooklyn Nets, Michael Porter Jr., just like we talked about, provides a lot of value for a championship contention team, and the Nets will trade him at his highest peak. The Charlotte Hornets, Colin Sexton. I think Colin Sexton could also be a sneaky player for the Timberwolves, who are looking for a point guard. And also, I just love the idea of the grit and grind that Anthony Edwards and Colin Sexton would be together. That would be pretty cool to watch and see. Chicago Bulls, Nikola Vucevic. I talked about this with the Jonathan Kuminga trade. I could definitely see him on a team like the Golden State Warriors. The Cavs, Lonzo Ball. This is a little bit surprising. The Lonzo Ball experiment so far hasn't been the greatest, but I think that I would have expected Jarrett Allen to be here. I think that he's a part of that list. I also think Darius Garland could be a part of this list as well. They kind of need to make a move if they want to make something happen in the playoffs this year. And I think Jarrett Allen, I don't think Lonzo Ball pushes the needle enough for a team that's going to give up a ton of value to go get him. The Dallas Mavericks, of course, Anthony Davis, just talked about that. The Denver Nuggets, Zeke Naji, just kind of a role player that provides a little bit of value for a team that needs some depth. Detroit, I think that the player listed here for ESPN is none. I think Jaden Ivey could be listed here. Yes, I just think that they're kind of ready to move forward off of him and ready because this window is a small window of opportunity that they could take advantage of being the 1 seed in the East. Golden State, of course, Jonathan Kuminga, just like we talked about before, he demanded a trade, so of course we assume he'll be traded. Houston Rockets with Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm surprised. Yes, I do agree Dorian Finney-Smith should be looked at, but if the Giannis sweepstakes go through, Alperen Sengun should probably be on this list as well. Of course, if you can find a way to get him without giving up Sengun, you have a Reed Shepherd, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jabari Smith, or Tari Eason deal to go get Giannis. That might be intriguing, but I would assume if the Bucks are trading Giannis, they're going to want Sengun in return. Pacers, Benedict Mathurin. I would like to see him over somewhere like Dallas or Sacramento or somewhere where they're ready to kind of hit the retool button and rebuild button, and they're just like, he fits in the same category of like a Jonathan Kuminga, a Jaden Ivey, a Darius Garland, where I just like to see him in a new place because seemingly he's kind of reached the full potential of the Pacers are on a different timeline than Benedict Mathurin is, and that's okay. So that's where you trade him to a team that could really utilize him, such as Sacramento. The Clippers, Kobe Brown, I mean, this is what it is. There's nothing really to say too much about that. They just need to start winning games, and they've been. The Lakers, Dalton Connect is here. I think players like Rui could be on the market, or Dalton Connect, or Gabe Vincent even, if there's a possibility to trade, to make a trade even happen to go get a center. The Grizzlies, of course, Ja Morant, we talked about that with teams going and getting him, like Minnesota possibly, maybe Toronto, someone like that. Miami, Terry Rozier. I think you could also add Tyler Hero to this list if they get in the Ja Morant sweepstakes. You could also add a player like Jaime Jaquez, who is young enough, didn't have the greatest second year, but yeah, just a depth player that kind of adds value. Milwaukee Bucks, Kyle Kuzma, similar to like we talked about before. Maybe Giannis ends up on this list, but as of right now, the Bucks are going to do everything they can to not trade Giannis, and until the day he says, yo, trade me, it's over, we're done, that's when finally they'll look to trade him. Minnesota, it is Rob Dillingham. That's exactly what I talked about before with Sacramento. Would be a great place for Rob Dillingham. Sacramento should be active in trading LaVine, trading DeRozan if they can, trading Sabonis if they can, and going and getting players, like Benedict Mathurin, who the Pacers need a center. So Sabonis for Benedict Mathurin and such, right? But you go get young, exciting players like that. Go talk to the Warriors. You say, yo, Jonathan Kuminga, can we get Malik Monk in a second or 2 seconds? Would that make the deal done? You go get Jonathan Kuminga. So then you have Jonathan Kuminga, Benedict Mathurin. You go talk to the Wolves and see what they want for a point guard like Dennis Schroeder or Russell Westbrook. You go get Rob Dillingham, and then you've got this exciting trio here with guys like Nick Clifford and Maxime and Dylan Caldwell, players like that. And you really have a young, talented roster that has potential. There is huge potential here for Sacramento if they execute. They just have to execute. You go get expirings like the Kyle Kuzmas of the world and, Bobby Portis of the world if you need to, but really you focus on just exciting talent if you can really get the deals done. Pelicans. Trey Murphy's here. I think Herb Jones should also be here. But Trey Murphy, of course, you should take the calls. Herb Jones, you should take the calls, something like that. Just see the value you can get. Zion should be on this list as well. Pelicans should be looking to, although they don't have their first round pick this year, they should go and get as many picks as they can. Kind of do the Brooklyn Nets thing where you flip players for more players kind of thing. You go, you trade Zion, see what you can get for him. You then go and you go trade Herb Jones, trade Trey Murphy, and I bet you can get a lot because there's going to be a bidding war for Trey Murphy. There's going to be a bidding war for Herb Jones. There's going to, not necessarily a bidding war for Zion, but people are going to make calls about Zion. So you might be able to get a minimum 3 first-round picks for those 3 guys on top of like a young player included in the Trey Murphy deal or Herb Jones deal. The New York Knicks, it's Yabusele. Yeah, he hasn't really had the greatest start to the NBA season. He's on a cheap contract, $11 million, but realistically, the Knicks got to do something. I don't know if Mikal Bridges was the right move. They traded a lot to go get him, and seemingly he needs to get tougher. A little bit of a soft NBA player. He just needs to get tougher, for sure. Oklahoma City Thunder, they have Ousmane Dieng listed here. I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they should just look to upgrade the three-point shooting. I think that's their biggest gripe right now, and I think teams are really exploiting them for that specific thing, is they can't shoot the 3 ball at a consistent clip. Next up, Orlando, Tyus Jones. They need some scoring. They need to go get one of those guys. Someone that can shoot the 3 ball. I think LaMelo Ball would be perfect in Orlando. I would love to see him in Orlando. And also, I want to see a bigger center. I want to see a Miles Turner over there. I want to see Even a DeAndre Ayton, if they could go do that. Something like that. Somebody taller. But Philly, pretty much, you name your pick. Other than, of course, no one's going to trade for Paul George. Joel Embiid's probably not going to get moved. Although I think that they should listen to Embiid talks. Embiid should be towards the top. Get him as healthy as possible. Have him ball out for like a week. Trade him. Because realistically, he does not play. Realistically, this is Tyrese Maxey's team. So if you can find deals to move off of Joel Embiid, yes, he's playing good, but like he's not playing great. And that's my thing, is like he's not playing to the MVP level. Now, yeah, it's seemingly Embiid's probably going to have a career like Yao Ming, where it's just going to be short, dominant and short. But I think you got to at least take the calls, because there's a lot of teams with a lot of movement that could happen. Next up, the Phoenix Suns, Nick Richards. They got a plethora of centers over there. That's kind of like I talked about before with like the Lakers looking to go talk to a team to go get a center. Portland with Jeremy Grant, I think that's a good move. If they move off of Jeremy Grant, I could definitely see that. I would like to see something like that happen. Sacramento, Sabonis. I think you can add Sabonis, DeRozan, Levine, Keegan. I think they should take calls on Keegan, Russell Westbrook, Dennis Schroeder, like the whole top of the roster. Just send them off if you can. Go get your exciting guys. You know, you don't necessarily have to trade Keegan per se, but I think you should at least listen to the calls. Then, like I said, you go get guys like Benedict Mathurin, Jonathan Kuminga, Rob Dillingham. You have Neat Clifford. You got Dylan Cardwell, something like that, who's blocking shots left and right. Boom. Jeremy Sohan for the San Antonio Spurs. I agree with this. I think they need to upgrade the wing position. So until Carter Bryant's fully ready to take that small forward position, I think you go get a Trey Murphy. You go get a Herb Jones, something like that. You go call the Pelicans. You have to at least make a call to the Pelicans about one of those two guys, because I would love to see those guys in San Antonio. Toronto with Ochai Agbaji. He's somebody that, sure, I think Emmanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett should be the main contender, but sure, he's a young player, which he's all right. I think he could be good for a young, exciting team, the Sacramento Kings. Again, here we go, another player. But, I mean, he's not really pushing the needle for too much. Utah, Yusuf Nurkic. I think Lauri Markkanen should be the player here. Lauri Markkanen is somebody that can bring in a lot of value. Yeah, eventually you got to pull the trigger on it. You have to just make the deal happen with Lauri Markkanen, because I think he provides too much value. Especially this year, you're going to have a top pick, maybe get a Boozer Boy since the dad played there. And then you're running a Walker Kessler. I think Walker Kessler should also be on the trade block, but maybe not. But yeah, then you have a Keontae George. You have whatever pick you get. You know, whether it's DeBonta, you have Ace Bailey, you've got Walker Kessler, you've got right now Lauri, but whatever you can get for Lauri, Jaden Ivey and Tobias Harris or something like that. And then last but not least, the Washington Wizards, and it should be Chris Middleton, should be on the trade block. I think that they could be a team that looks to get younger or just adjust. Honestly, I keep bringing up, I think Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, they just fit on so many different rosters that I could definitely see them on any roster, but I would love them either in San Antonio or Washington, just because they're going to need the defense, because Trae Young's going to be there. They've got the young talent. The other thing with Trae Young is going to be able to bring something out, I think, out of Alex Sarr that we haven't seen yet. So he's going to be able to elevate that game. But yeah, I would love to see a defending wing over there. Now they have Bilal Coulibaly. I was surprised he wasn't involved in the trade for Trae Young. Shout out for the Wizards front office for being able to not give up basically anything. You gave up an expiring CJ, sure, whatever. You gave up nothing to go get Trae Young, and it's great to see. So All right, guys, that's going to do it for us in this episode of the Beyond the Arc podcast. If you did enjoy this, again, do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, comment down below your favorite player to watch or your favorite organization to watch by the deadline. So without further ado, it's been another Beyond the Arc episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.